Hey guys, this is a video showing how I took the steering and pedals from the 2012 Chrysler 300 and crammed it into a 1937 Dodge pickup. Stick around, I'll show you the ups and downs of trying to figure this out. So, been trying to do the steering a bit. Had to take the old steering plate out in order to mount the new steering wheel in. This has like this weird funny angle. It's like bent and angled. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this piece, cut it off like here to help mount my new steering column, which is right here. So that's out of the 2012 300. So my really old truck is going to have power, tilt, and telescopic steering, amazingly. So I built this plate here to kind of sit on top. So I'm going to basically drill some holes, go through here and over there. So that's all together. And then that will get welded to some bracketry that'll connect back with this plate, which goes under here. Can't get it under there. We'll bring the steering wheel up through here. It's got to be up basically where this hole is, which was a gauge, I guess, at some point. So the steering wheel column needs to come through here now in order to work with the seats. So a lot of figuring out to do, but we'll use some of the old parts because they have all the crazy angles. So we'll see what happens. So my steering, to mount this thing, my steering column basically has to come out like here-ish. I already have this hole. I think if I could cut this whole thing out, make a new piece of metal I can just screw in. Instead of messing around with this, if I cut this out nicely, then I can stick my column through and then cut a piece of sheet metal basically to finish it off. Instead of messing around with the old stuff and trying to stuff it through a hole that's not really meant for it. Just drilled the holes to put the brake pedal assembly in from the 300, and as you can see, she fits underneath. Takes up a lot of the room. The pedal, obviously we can bend it so it goes there versus there. There's not a lot of pedal movement. Now, can modify the pedal arm to give me more when I move it over, but I'm not sure how much I'm going to need, because I know you need a certain amount of throw in order to make the brakes work correctly. And since I'm not running a brake booster because there's no damn room, this is my hold the bolt gadget. When you're by yourself and you can't, you just throw a big magnet on it and it holds it. So I don't think I have room for a brake booster because it should come out about here. So I should be sitting about here, which I'm running out of room here. So that's going to be an interesting problem to solve. And I'm really not sure that this is going to work in its current form. As you can see, still got to get the steering column in here, and I got to get the gas pedal in. So, yeah. Oh boy. Now, I quickly just put the throttle cable in, or the throttle pedal in there. Just kind of found a hole that worked, and it's close. some pedal, not a lot of pedal. Probably have to build it off the wall a little bit, put some spacers in or something to make it fit. Probably shove it up and over as well, because there's more room over that side, and I probably get a little bit of clearance over here. Well, it's pretty tight. I think it's almost where it's going to be. Now, the problem is the steering column has to fit somewhere in there. I think it'll pass the throttle. The brakes are going to be the big issue here. So, that's the old mounting bracket or part of it. So, if I can get the column through that hole, then I can figure out how much I need to modify here. So, I guess we're going to find out. Well, I had to make the hole a little bit bigger here, but now you can really see the problems going on here. So this has to go up. So when this goes up, I don't know if I can do it with one hand, it's not exactly light. I can kind of get it. So, yeah. Issues. And I think it's off center too. So that brake assembly is a real cock. Okay, so a little backtrack here. I pulled the brake pedal out and the throttle out, and I figure I'm gonna mount this thing first. So I got it kind of suspended up with some number 9 wire, and trying to get it in the right spot. Got a plan for actually mounting this thing. So I think the plan is to kind of get it so I can bolt it to this here and then use the original mount up in there on the plate that I made. And once that's made, I'll see how much room I have left for my brakes. So for the brakes, I'm thinking that I need to kind of change the firewall and recess that whole bracket for the brake assembly into the firewall a little bit. I have some room here, so I'm thinking that if that might buy me enough room to get that mounted in there, and then I can remount the throttle pedal because there'll be enough room. So for the steering, I'm gonna basically take this bracket that I made for the top, drill my holes in it, and then I cut these little brackets. I got 2 of these, so I'm gonna basically bolt this to the top, set these in place, clamp them in place, take it out, weld them, drill some holes, and then put it in through the dash. In the back, I'm gonna take the original weirdly bent bracket that I cut out. I'm gonna have to figure out how to basically attach it like that so that everything kind of sits together nice. And then I can bolt the whole steering column to that, and then that should be nice and secure. So that's the current plan. We'll see how it ends up after all this. Okay, so this is what I got now. So I was just checking the dash to see if it would still fit in. This is the decorative part of the dash, I guess. That up there for a second. So I ran 2 bolts through, and I managed to get the brackets tack welded onto the main bracket. And now all I have to do is get the bottom or the back bracket tied in, and my column will be all in. And it actually ends up leaving me more room than I thought, so the brake pedal assembly might just need a little shave to fit. I should be off to the races. So let's keep going here and see where if we can get this all figured out. Back at her. Okay, so here's what we got. I took the steering column out again. So my bolts up here, and under here I have the new bracket bolted to the old bracket. You can get in there and see. Basically, I take it out now, finish welding all of it, and basically paint it up, clean it up, and I'm waiting on bigger bolts for the back because there's like 3-inch bolts required to put the column in the back. But it will hold with the front 2 bolts, so I'll probably get it in and then start mocking up the other pedals. So keep going at it here and see how I go. Okay, so this is my finished steering column bracket. I made up. So it's all welded up, ground down. Not the greatest welds, but they'll hold for sure. It's still quite hot, so it's all ready to go. That's the other piece that goes to this that connects to the truck. It's part of the original steering bracket. So these two go together. I'm just going to paint them up, put them in, and then I'll put the steering column in. Let's see how this looks. Okay, so now it's all painted and installed. Didn't use all the bolts that I required, but it's in. It's solid. You shake the whole truck with it. So that works out. New problem is this little giant setup is the accelerator, and it no longer fits. But with some Googling, found out that this is a adjustable pedal setup. So the cylinder here isn't really required. I can basically get rid of it and just have the accelerator pedal. So it slims it right down. So this should fit after I take that off. Okay, after removing it, this is all that's left. So it's quite small, so that should fit easy. This is the part that was removed, which I don't really need, because adjustable pedals in this truck is just not going to be a thing. So that means that this part on the brakes is also the adjustable pedals. So I'm going to order a non-adjustable set, I think, to make my life easier, because this will slim down this bracket. And actually looking at the non-adjustable ones, this brake pedal is actually straight, so that works out in my favor. So I'm going to try that, see how that works. So let's see if I can get these mounted up and see how it looks. Okay, so here we are again. I got the accelerator in now, next to the Firewall. So it was a bit of a pain to find a spot that gave me the full pedal. Felt good for sitting in the seat. Was over far enough and left enough room for the brake pedal. So I think I got it now. It's mounted up, solid. My handy dandy trick for working alone with the magnet and wrench helped out a lot. So I was able to tighten it down and make sure everything was good. So now on to the brake pedal, which ought to be a real pain. So let's see how that goes. Okay, so now I was messing around trying to look at the brake setup that I have to do, and I realized that if you can see it, I have a new awesome problem. So that is the spline shaft for the steering column, and that is the plug-in for the accelerator pedal. So I have to shift everything over. Luckily, I still have some room here, so I think if I shift it over the inch or so that I have, I will be able to make this still work. So, but the problem being, the Firewall has all these amazing bumps in them that I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to build a plate, I think, and bridge that gap to have the accelerator sit on the piece of plate. So So either weld or bolt the plate to the firewall and then bolt the accelerator to the plate. Fun. One step forward, 2 steps back. So I'll take that apart and try again. Okay, so another step forward, I guess. I put a piece of steel, something thin, well, not super thin, but good enough. Tack weld it in for now, make sure everything lines up. And we'll re-bolt it in, clear. And if you see, we just clear. So that's as far as over, and I think we're good now for clearance on the steering shaft. So now back to the brakes. So let's see how that works now. Okay, so here's where we're at. We have cut a giant hole in the firewall, which in the previous video I showed cutting it. I ended up cutting it almost 2 inches taller to fit this thing in. This is gonna basically fit like that now. So I'm gonna build a housing around it to hold it in. So that's the next step in the project. We'll see what that looks like. I have to clearance this little piece here. I'm gonna cut it off and give me some more room to get this tucked in. This here, tucked in here. So I'm gonna cut this off. Give me more space. I don't need it. So more cutting, more welding, more fabrication, I guess. Okay, so after hacking out the big hole, I bent up a part to fill it back in. That moves the brake assembly forward. And just stumble all over all the junk in here. Got a little bit of a gap to fill still, but that's the general shape and location. That fits the brake assembly really good. I got a little bit more trimming to do, but that'll be all right. And I hacked out part of the steering column bracket that I made, so I'll have to go back in and kind of reinforce that. But that allows the brake assembly to tuck up behind the column, making it a little bit easier to fit everything. So I think the next plan is to finish trimming out the firewall and then add a little flange to that part I made to film this, and then we'll see where we're at. Keep going here. It's looking good. Okay, so I figured I'd grab one more video before I start welding this thing in, but it's all in now. I put the flange on the side and roughly ground it down to fit. I ended up putting a flange on the bottom and recutting that to kind of make it fit a little bit nicer. Still a little gaps around, but I think we can fill that with weld. So I think that'll be fine. So the plan, I think, is to tack it or tack it plus in place and make sure it's gonna work. And then when I pull the cab off to final weld the bottom, I'll have a much better access to kind of final weld this and clean it up. So I think right now I'll just get it tacked in and ready to go. So cleaned up in here as well, so this fits pretty good. So I'm just gonna get it tacked in now and see what happens, and then we'll see how she fits. All right, on to the next thing, more welding. All right, this is what I came up with. This is the final result of mounting the pedals and the steering together. Plenty of room to sit down. The throttle is in. The brake assembly is in. I had to hack off the brake pedal because it was underneath the throttle, so that doesn't work, but I can weld it back on if I have to. But I have another one coming that I think is straight, and it's the non-powered version, so give me a little bit more room under here, but everything is clearanced and fits nicely together. And I have this piece tacked on. For now, I'll final weld that when I flip the truck or the cab off and final weld the bottom.